Our top story tonight, some going down in November.
Wars, spending.
There has got to be something big a-brewing.
They're using geese to guard prisons in Brazil.
Does Biden know what Mexico
policies.
is? Would you scare Joe Biden? What are we laughing at?
I think Billy Mays was real.
I'm a world-class skeptic.
I don't know anything about Hunter Biden. I don't know who's big into cocaine and laptops. Why is that our problem?
Complete, absolute incompetence. Like, who funds the news? It's a freaking inside job, man. That the entire world's a stage and everything's fake.
All right, welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Veritas Road. Can anybody even hear me? John's computer just fell apart. It always does right as we get started. Sweet. Okay, cool. We are back in the studio, Carson and John, with Steven from the Biblical Hitmen. We're very excited tonight. Yeah, Steven, how's it going? Let's get tell everybody where to find you, all the stuff.
What's up, guys, man? It's good to be here, man. Thank you for the invite. I'm glad to be here, man. But people can find me. I'm Steven, host of the Biblical Hitmen. You can check me out on YouTube, audio platforms, everything under the Biblical Hitmen, pretty much, and also on social medias, man. I mean, who isn't on social media nowadays? So
That's true.
yeah.
I don't
Shout
actually
out to,
want to be, but I
real
am.
quick. Shout out to Nephilim Hunter. I saw him throw up some comments in the live chat. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's a legend.
he is. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, go check out Steven's stuff. Is there what do we have going on? Is there anything I need to tease right now? I'm losing. We were going to do a watch party tomorrow night. That is postponed because in Tennessee we are allegedly all going to freeze to death due to some sort of snowstorm that's coming through. So we're changing the date on that. We're going to premiere our latest ep on germ theory versus terrain theory tomorrow around 7 Central Time.
Yeah. I'll get it up around 7.
Okay, so that'll premiere tomorrow. We're working on getting our stuff together to talk with Danny from the Rabbit Hole podcast. Excited about that. That should be fun. And then outside of that, we're still working on the schedule. I have no clue what's coming next. So
Live every Tuesday.
live every Tuesday for Touch Me Tuesdays, where we talk about things that touch me, and hopefully we can touch you too. I never get tired of saying that. I'm sure I will one day, but that's all I got for that, I think, right? Is there anything else?
No.
Okay, cool. So my first question for you, Steven, and I'm just curious, I'm not trying to attack you. Have you considered changing the E to an A?
So it's been the talk, right? Like the Biblical Hitman, but it's just one guy. It kind of like doesn't really fit, right? But it used to be 3 of us, right? Jesse, Taylor, and me. Unfortunately, through the journey of a podcast, right? Because it's kind of like a journey. You find new
It is, yeah,
places,
right.
And it just got pretty time consuming. The show grew, and it became something that you had to take care of, right? And so with that, it just takes a lot of time out of your everyday schedule, whatever it be, work, whatever, kids and whatnot, and life gets in the way, man. But those guys, they're still part of the show. They'll show up randomly time to time, right? Like I'll bring them on or something like that. But I took the reins of everything, and keeping it the Biblical Hitman. It's what I'm gonna do.
I like it.
Well, the fans have kind of, or just, the supporters of the channel or whatever, they've given me some feedback, and they consider it, all of them are Biblical Hitmen too. So it's kind of cool. It fits.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Love that.
Maybe your personality's so big, it has to be men to encompass the full scope of. I think that's the way I would approach it. I like that.
Where did the name come from?
Let's
Just
get
out of
So
curiosity.
I was at a gas station and I just thought of it, man. I gave Jesse a call. I was like, dude, we're calling the show the Biblical Hitmen. Previously, the show we had, which we only put a few episodes out with, was called Remnant Warriors Podcast. But the Biblical Hitman just kind of was like I don't know. It was like, you're calling this show this, you're revamping it. Everyone was in because it was, pretty awesome. I don't know. It kind of like was, in that moment, everyone was excited. It just fit. We were like, no one has it. Let's go. and we rolled with it, man. And I would say that's kind of like what the show's about in some sort of way. I know there's a lot of narratives, there's a lot of ideologies, there's a lot of biases out there with what's going on in the world, but
Sure.
through the Christian lens, and because I'm a Christian and I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I have a full-time job. But I felt a calling to take the space on the internet and try to combat some of the narratives that are out there. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a lot of things that are pretty catchy, and it consumes people, right? Because it's very seducing. It's almost like it's sensual, right?
Right.
Not in the female way, but it's just in that grabbing way.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff out there like that right now today.
Yeah.
There is. It's all over the place. And one thing I'm curious about, because you mentioned like you're a Christian out here in the truth space. What kind of led you to that point? Like what I guess started you on your Christian journey, and then along that way, like how did you wind up in this kind of, Christian guy talking about UFOs and CERN with a bar sign that says Biblical Hitmen in the background? What led you to that point? I realize that's a big question, and the scope of that is massive. So,
Yeah.
whatever you want to say about it.
Well, back in 2020, right? We all know what happened. 2021, everyone in the world knew what happened then. And,
Yeah.
I felt a calling to just start talking about the things that not only I was seeing on the front lines. I'm a paramedic fireman, so
Okay.
at that time, my job was very active. It was just very busy, and I say this sometimes, and I think servers are like some of the best eyewitnesses that are out there. They hear conversations, they're seeing new people, they see what
Yeah.
what people don't see, right?
Right.
Well, I was kind of seeing the same thing, and in that time, obviously in the medical space, it was pretty serious, and I was like, well, I got to kind of maybe start talking about this stuff, which I don't talk about it really. It's like not what the show's about, but it's what pushed me into the podcast space, man. And so I got into that, got a liking to it, and into 2017, I had a UFO experience in Las Vegas with Jesse, and
Oh wow.
it just shifted my whole paradigm with life. I was a Christian, so I had to fit that idea into the biblical perspective, which I had no idea
Yeah.
could fit, right? And I think does fit. Some people reject it, but I think it does fits
Yeah.
very well. And so I had to make sense with that. And I just, it was a spiritual battle, number one, because I was being pulled into a belief system that I didn't want to go into, because I knew it was just deceptive, and I knew it wasn't, what my faith stood against it. So there was kind of a spiritual battle there, but it took
Yeah.
me into the realm of studying what does that phenomenon have to do with the Bible, and it just led me down to the road I'm at. I've interviewed many people. I mean, again, the show hasn't been going on for years, right? So when I say
Right.
many people, but authors, researchers, and people in the space that have helped, guide me into digging deeper, where to dig deeper with some of these topics: Nephilim, fallen angels,
Yeah.
UFOs, and stuff like that. How does it fit into the Christian narrative? And it's what took me into that whole stuff, man. Started getting into Gary Wayne's book, Genesis 6 Conspiracy. I don't know if you guys have heard of it or whatever,
Yeah.
but it's an
Yeah.
interesting book, one of many, right, that are out there that help show you, an explanation of, what were all these pagan gods, mythologies, like what is all this stuff, right? But yeah, it just
Yeah.
led me into that.
Wow. So the question I would have regarding that is like you're okay. So I assume you grew up relatively spiritual based on what you're saying. Like you've been a Christian for a while. Yes? Is that
I've been
correct-ish?
I've been a Christian since 2010. So yeah, like I
2010?
16, 17, I forget. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not very good at counting, but I've been
I
a
mean,
Christian. I was a
counting's
Christian-
hard.
yeah, like high school, right? High school,
Yeah.
senior year. That's when I gave my life to Christ, and that's when it all started for me right there.
That's awesome.
Which, like, the conspiracy space, like, started, like
Right.
it was
Yeah.
9/11
Around the same time.
in that time,
Yeah.
around that everyone was, YouTube was getting popular because people were putting like very interesting videos, and that was the topic that a lot of people were getting into. Today it's like people are getting into the fallen angels and
Right.
these mythical gods and stuff. What is it? They're trying to fit it into our reality and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So how did you you have this like spiritual worldview, right? And you go to Las Vegas, which I'm sure was a fun experience, and have this UFO experience that you're talking about. One of the things that I've noticed, especially in like, so we both come from like a super conservative, Church of Christ. I don't know how familiar you are with Southern denominations, but we come from like super conservative Church of Christ culture. That a lot of those people, a lot of people, at least in our like spiritual religious space, seem to work as hard as they can to make their faith bend to what they consider to be the reality of science, and I say that in quotes. What do you use, or what did you use, what do you currently use is like your barometer or your compass for figuring out where to even start looking for truth? Because I can imagine like having as a person of faith, having a UFO experience or something like that happen would absolutely rock and potentially shatter your worldview. And there are a lot of mental gymnastics I think people could go through to try to twist what I would consider to be like solid biblical truth to make them fit the realm of whatever's coming out from people like Timothy Alberino or whoever. Yeah. So what did you use to like kind of guide you through that process?
It's funny. I mean, Google is probably one of the best things ever, right? And I know that's like a retarded answer, but I mean, that's where anyone would kind of start, right? Like just going straight to Google, getting through some Wikipedia documents, obviously, because it's like the first thing generated that you can click on. But I would say I got into listening to podcasts. I got into like typing in certain things that I was interested in, listening to podcasts, listening to books that they've read, and just maybe trying to, catch the bus, right? And because there's a bunch of people out there that have gone down this journey. There's people that have been doing it a very long time, but and just kind of catch that wind and follow it, trail it. And then you start to provoke your own thoughts, and then you start to kind of navigate and search out certain things that other people haven't figured out. You've made a conclusion now because you've put a few pieces together and it makes sense. It could be scripture, it could be, CIA documents, and it could be this. And you're kind of like trying to make it make sense and fit into reality. How can things only be physical? When we experience phenomenon that my instincts tell me is spiritual. Now, maybe it could be both, right? Like the UFO. I mean, the UFO experience I had, it was seemed to be like a conscious orb light, something very similar to what Chris Bledsoe, Ryan Bledsoe, a lot of the CE5 programs, they push this kind of stuff as well, and I had to try and figure that out, and it was when I say conscious, right? So we're out in Calico Basin, which is just off of the east side in that Red Rock Canyon right there outside of Vegas. It's probably 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, right? It's Las Vegas.
Sure. Wild time.
It's really like plus I'm on vacation and we're out there actually hiking in the mountain range. It's a pretty cool setting, man. I mean, the lights from Vegas are shining on the mountains. It gives you that light. Plus you got the moonlight, and you got Black Hawk helicopters just chopping out the wind out there, it makes it like a setting. You're like, oh, dude, we're gonna see something. Right. And this was the time when Jeremy Corbell came out with his Bob Lazar documentary. So it was super hyped, dude. Right. Christian guy, have no idea about the things that I know I'm going to come to research in the future, but I'm out there, and just a boom, light pops up, orb pops up right at the top of the mountain. We're going up the mountain. We see that it's clearly 40-50 feet above the mountain. You can hear now I don't know if you guys work with drones. A couple of weeks ago, I was with Doc Brown, Prometheus Lens podcast. We went out to Vegas and he flew his drone around, right? And we were in the same exact area, very windy, and he's flying his drone around, and he's way farther away than that light was from us, and I could still hear the drone, right?
Right.
And it's
yeah.
Probably an affordable, that anyone normal people could afford, like a drone, right? They got like $1,000 of drone. I mean, the drones that they have today are pretty quiet the more you spend on it. But that's my point is I don't think it was a drone, but as it's moving, it's actually moving around, and it's moving as we're talking, and we're kind of like talking about it, and it's like playing with us.
Yeah. It's freaky.
Yeah.
And then we kind of like called it out.
Like, hey, Orb, what's up, bro?
Well, not like that. Jesse started, doing coyote howling, right? So, I'm over there thinking like this thing ain't nothing, right?
Right.
Trying, because that's what you do when something is in your territory that you have no idea what it is. You're either fight or flight, right? So I was like in a fight. That's kind of like the mode that we were in. But
sure,
when we thought that, when Jesse did that, this thing, stood still. It started vibrating, and then it just kind of just lifted up. And as it's lifting up, it started sliding down the mountain, like coming right down the mountain right to us. And we just booked it out of there, got in the truck, took off, and I'm turning around looking through the truck, window, and it's thing's still coming after us. And then it just kind of just faded away. Right.
Jeez.
So, well, that's my UFO experience, man. So I just had to try and figure that out. Gone down many different rabbit holes, man. And I still don't know what to make of it yet, but I do think it has something to do with interdimensional space and physical space. And I don't know if they lay on top of one another or what, but something to do with that, man, in my opinion. I think it's manipulated by spirit, right?
Yeah.
And, if something's outside of our dimension, right, and in a spiritual space, they don't have to obey the laws of our physics, in my opinion. They're outside of it. They have dominance over it, right? Like, so it's kind of, maybe that's what we're looking at. Now, disclosure is a huge thing that's kind of in the talk, right?
In the lexicon right now. Yeah.
I know. Top and Raven with NDS. I don't know if you caught their episode with Alberino, but disclosure is something that a lot of people saw it, right? Like,
a few, yeah.
Who in our space like hasn't seen it? And I thought it had purpose behind it, because it kind of raises the question now. What are we dealing with here?
Yeah,
right.
100%.
It's kind of like a pendulum swing from that 2017 narrative. I don't know if you guys maybe have taken a 35, 60, 70,000 foot view of this, but 2017, that military Congress narrative was killing it, right?
Yeah.
It's getting all the clicks, all the bait. And then the religious spiritual aspect of it started to swing against it. And I feel like it's been Blurry Creatures, The Confessionals, right? Like, you guys kind of catch my drift of these shows starting to grow, pop off, and this is how they're interpreting this, or perceiving this phenomenon. And now it's kind of like coming back.
Yeah.
I don't know if, they're saying UFOs are in the water. They're saying
they've been saying that for a minute. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I'm seeing more activity coming back to this Congress, just state of mind with UFOs and disclosure and stuff. Steven Spielberg is coming out with a movie this year, and it's called Disclosure Day or something like that.
Of course it is. I'm sure that's just a coincidence.
Could be timely. Right? Like Chris Bledsoe. I think it's Chris. Yes, Chris is the father. But he was approached by this divine feminine. He calls it the lady, right?
Yeah. Many
different names, right? He says, right? Same entity.
Calls her like Hathor and like Lady Mary or something like that too, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And these are divine feminine goddesses that have been throughout different cultures,
right,
different groups of people, and that's what these, you know, I feel God is truth, and God is pretty straight up with certain things. And then the other side, you know, fallen angels, demonic entities, Satan, right? Like
Yeah.
that side of it, you know, they thrive on deception, but they want to twist a narrative so that you actually think you're believing in like what's true, you know. And it's
Right.
been going on
Right. Yeah.
with you know, I think changings of the Bible, how to perceive things and how to look at things. And
The
one of
New
these
Age
things,
movement. Yeah, I felt prey
yeah,
to some
New
of that.
Age, right? Yeah, yeah. I think one of the main things, man, is that the church today, at least they're not intact with that spiritual natural, that supernatural. I'm sorry, that supernatural look of the Bible.
Yeah.
So with the
100% there.
pendulum, you know what I'm saying? So with
Yeah,
the pendulum
absolutely.
swing coming in, and Albert, and I have, you know, all respect for Alberino. This is a guy that's kind of created and helped influence, you know, what I do today, right? Like he
Yeah.
helped create the space. But what from his side, you know, I'm seeing this narrative come back again. So maybe it's both, man, because Bledsoe's talking about a divine feminine aspect of it, which leads to Gnosticism, leads to Sophia, leads to a further narrative in the future that will succumb to us needing Sophia to beat the demiurge, right? Like
Right.
if you take a step back, right, what I just kind of said right there, they make movies off of. They make tons of movies, man. Avengers movies, the Marvel movies. It's all wrapped up in a Gnostic view, which I tell people, you know, I think why it's happening right now. A lot of people are, you know, wooed by Gnosticism and all of this. I mean, who wouldn't be wooed with you know, theology that you have to break free from jail?
Yeah. Right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it sounds
It's very compelling. It's exceptionally compelling. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's like the play to every Hollywood movie. Like it's very similar, and I think it appeals to our consciousness. I don't know if we're conditioned for it to appeal to our consciousness, like the way that Gnosticism kind of works, and the way that all these movies kind of, you know, pit the audience against some oppressive force, and you're like, hell yeah, I'm gonna. But yeah, it does appeal to the mind in a very particular way. That even happened to me with like the divine feminine there for a little bit. I almost hopped on board that train because at the time it was very seductive. I was in college. I liked the idea of like the duality of like because my dad died when I was young. I liked and I never really, like, my mom was schizophrenic. I never really had parents, and so I liked the duality of like the father disciplinarian creator and the divine feminine nurturer. It was a nice idea, but and I tend to agree with you. Like, I think the only place that leads is towards Gnosticism and all the messed up stuff they do. So yeah.
Yeah, well, stuff like that is a forever, it's a never-ending mystery.
Right.
Like that's why there's mystery schools. That's why there's elites. That's why there's degrees. That's why there's adepts. That's why there's these secrets. Because I feel the more that they retain the knowledge and keep it to themselves, they have authority, power, and all this other kind of stuff. Now, even occult knowledge. I mean,
Yeah.
And what you said about movies, man, I wrote a little note here, but it's like movies prepare, they prepare us for what we're going to adapt to. Like they
That's a good
condition us psychologically,
Yeah.
right? They prepare you what you're going to adapt to. That's just, we can see it play out in all the movies. We're like, what? This movie did this, and then this played out in real life, and then
Yeah.
you know, and they do a lot of other things too, man, to see how we react to stuff, to scenarios. My buddy Ben Bumgarten, he's got End of the World news podcast, but he brought this to my attention, and they actually have this thing called the sentient world simulation, right? And it's where they have they have literally your data, which basically builds this profile of like a sim character. And it's involved in this, you know, very complex, you know, like diagram of algorithms that they can just it's a running city almost. And so they can do things, and they can test things, and they can see how people react. Which
Jeez.
I honestly think our phones know us a little better than we even know ourselves, right? It's just kind of like doesn't spy, but it you know,
Observes.
yeah, it observes and it just stores data, man, that
Yeah.
we're feeding it
Constantly.
constantly, man. So, but you know, they run these scenarios through the sentient world simulation, and they have a better prediction for what the outcome is going to be if they do something, right? Nefarious, right? That's like the whole Hegelian dialectic thing, right? Problem, reaction, solution.
Wow.
This is how something gets advocated for by the public, so that really it's on you.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the whole like social
allowed it to
contract type
happen,
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that spiritual contract. And if you get people to beg for it, well, we have no choice but to give it to them. That whole idea of like you have to buy into whatever spiritual negativity is coming from these people, and it works. It's worked on me, I'm sure, a million times. Yeah, I mean, gosh, it's a great point. I'd never heard of. You said it was like the sentient simulation or something like that.
Sentient world simulation. Yeah.
Is that like an actual thing?
It's a real thing, man. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I forget. I think it's a college actually has it, and it's funded, you know, government funded and all that kind of stuff.
Of course.
I know a little of a lot, so some things I can't remember.
I mean, that's fair. I'd never heard of that, but it makes a lot of rational sense because for at least observing behavior, I think you learn a lot more than being inside like the vessel that's creating the behavior, right? And so like sometimes it's difficult to, I don't know, like self-analyze, whereas I can look at somebody else and tell them exactly where they're being retarded. I might not see the self-retardation, you know, that's going on. And so your phone probably does know you a lot better than you know yourself. And if it can gather that data en masse, what an easy way to predict the movement of mass populations. I don't know if you've read the Foundation trilogy by Isaac Asimov, but he was a science fiction writer, I think in the early 1900s, and he wrote a book called the Foundation trilogy, where he talks about how, I think I've talked about it on our show before, where they essentially come up with math to predict behavior, but the more people you got into a group, the better it worked, and the better you could figure out how to push these masses of people in one direction or another. And the whole book is centered on like the impending doom of this planet, is essentially an empire. I liken it to America, and he sends this sect of people off to like this distant planet to create a foundation to like shorten the time frame of like destruction and desolation. And what they do in an effort to win over the masses is they create this religion, because the whole empire falls apart. Nobody has technology anymore. They create this religion based on science to control the masses. And that was written like 150 years ago or something.
Well, there you go, man. You know, it's like the same thing as like movies, right? I mean, just you'll get a little vision of what's going to happen in the future, like a television, and then boom, 20, 30 years down the line, people don't, they're you know, people are very docile and ignorant today. I think people are actually the stupidest they've ever been in history. You know, we come from like this idea of like being cavemen and then evolution, and this is how we are today.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that whole thing kind of fits a whole Gnostic narrative, right? It's kind of like accelerating your consciousness. It's the narrative of, hey, we have to get to transhumanism because we started there. Why would we? You know, we're here now. Why wouldn't we go there, right forward? Yeah. So, which I think transhumanism is something that's going to push possibly that religion. I mean, AI is something that I've been getting into. I had Courtney Turner on the show, and she gets into AI, and you know, she made a good point. She's like, you know, this thing, it can be a god if we allow it, but it's more like, hey, it's just processing information and all this kind of stuff, which sure. But if you get that and you put it in the occult's hands, now what's the probability?
What's the end game?
Yeah, like what's going on? What can happen here, right?
Yeah.
And I think the occult which is right, it's a hidden knowledge, Latin term, and all this kind of stuff. But I think it's a hidden science. It's a hidden metaphysical science. I don't condone for the occult. Some people play with it, right? But I don't. I think it's something that was not for us, right? If it was for Christians, or at least people with my perspective, we'd all be in the space doing it. Plus, I think the Bible talks pretty clearly about things that we should stay away from.
Yeah.
But one thing that I always go and I look back at, right? Like we all kind of like know the story of Moses, right?
Mhm.
His relationship with Egypt, leaving and coming back again, and him and Aaron approach Pharaoh, right? They approach Pharaoh, and Moses is like, let these people go, bro. I'm telling you, bro. Like, let them go.
Yeah.
And doesn't happen. Well, Moses casted his staff on the ground, turns into a snake. Well, the Pharaoh had magi's. I forget their names, but they casted their staffs down as well, and it also turned into a snake. So that's incredible power, in my opinion. That's a science that I have, I have no idea where it even starts, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I think that kind of information is kept secret through adepts and through these levels in the systems that they have. But what does that mean? If you have their ideologies and their philosophies of occult practice, and then they get their hands on AI, like what does this do now? When I read Revelation 13 and I see that the false prophet gives life unto the image of the beast, and then this thing is able to both speak and do miracles and wonders, and for those that don't worship this thing, there's war against them, right?
Yeah.
To me, that just looks like a ritual. It looks like you've got this magician putting an entity in a body of some sort, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys follow me here
Yeah.
or what, but
No,
I
yeah.
do.
but there's something weird with that, right? So when we have AI
is.
and Elon's making robots now, and
It's freaky.
it's freaky, right? I mean,
We've kind of
who
toyed
knows?
around with that idea here a few times. Is like, these data centers that they're building, they always have to be near a water source, and they're very, like, I don't know. To me, there seems to be this kind of weird, like, temple thing going on with them. Like, we need to kind of give them our first fruits, so to speak. Like, they're getting all your energy, they're getting all your money, they're getting all the water, and we can't reuse it after it leaves. And then John mentioned something a while back, and I'm kind of interested to know what you think about this concept. But we were watching, there was this video, I don't know if you've seen it, that came out of this, it was over in Europe, and this kid who had, I think, been killed in a school shooting, they like fed his life through AI, and they did an interview with this kid on air, his AI self. And John posed the question, like, when you're interacting with that, could it potentially be some kind of like demonic entity that is essentially embodying the thing past like all the ones and zeros and binary that's, coding the program? And I thought it was kind of an interesting concept, because even the people who are coding this stuff don't seem to know how it works. Is there, at a minimum, some kind of spiritual entity that's standing in the gaps, or worse?
It could be, man. I mean, we see things so objectively that I think it can blur a lot of stuff, or at least confuse us, or we can get in our own head.
Yeah.
I think we just have to take the experience for itself rather than like nitpick everything that's so objective. But what is that, right? Like it's artificial intelligence that's putting on an act
All right.
to try and be someone it's not. So when you said that, it made me think of Aleister Crowley, right? And he wrote a lot about this idea of how to invoke spirits and how to invoke entities. And he said that the number one way to do that is by acting, is by putting a character on, is by being something that you're not. So when you said that, I'm kind of like, okay, well, maybe there's an occult connection with that. And plus, if I think there's things that occupy space that we can't see. So
Right.
who's to say that those things can't mess around with electronics, or how come when people start talking about certain things, lights dim and things like that.
Right.
Satan's the prince of the power of the air. What does that mean? It's very interesting. Is it something of the metaphysical world? We clearly can't see it, but these things can move just in and out of physical objects, right? So when we get to
Sure.
the idea of idols, right? And what's that movie? Annabelle or whatever, right?
Oh,
we've
yeah.
got demons, right? Like
The Conjuring. Yeah.
going into things. Even biblically, right? Jesus casted the legion into the swine out of the man. So they're vessels.
Yeah.
And I'm just making some of these connections that maybe AI is something that can be possessed.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? I think it's something that we all use every day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Artificial
I used it
intelligence.
right before the show. Yeah.
It can be used for good, right? But I think it could also be used as a tool that fits an agenda against God, if that makes sense, man. I don't know.
Yeah, 100% makes sense. And it's like, I've kind of posed the idea that like the whole religion of institutional science, from my perspective, it's kind of looking for a deity, if that makes sense. It seems to be looking for a deity, and AI might be one of the things that fit that, but it might be coming from the disclosure narrative as well, because it's like their deity right now is the like ethereal universe, in my opinion, is crap, and it makes no sense. But if they kind of deify artificial intelligence, or they deify whatever they bring out of the alien disclosure, that makes the deception a lot more believable, especially for people who are rooted in religious beliefs, whether it be Christianity or some other religion. And I feel like AI is probably one of the main components of how that might take place.
Well, they actually just said it 2 days ago. The World Economic Forum right now is doing their whole get together for however long that they do it. Everyone's going there, giving their spiels of what they believe the future holds, and how we, the elites, can basically fix everything. But they there's this one guy in there, I forgot his name, just didn't stick. But he's up there talking about artificial intelligence like being the savior for the world.
Yeah.
Right. So, and these are people that are in very high ranking positions that have authority. They make decisions, and it doesn't matter what we think. At the end of the day,
No.
this is how they want the world to be.
Yeah.
I think they want us to live with AI. I think at some point in the future, maybe AI, or maybe artificial intelligence as we know it right now is, I don't know how to explain this, and then this is going to lose people, but like, what if artificial intelligence is the vessel for Sophia? This idea of Sophia. I've been
Just wondering the same thing. Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
I've been digging into Gnosticism, man, because I do think it has a lot to contribute to the idea that Revelation told from Satan's perspective. So
Mhm.
you're gonna have like, yeah, when Antichrist comes, right? When this Maitreya comes, when this figure that the whole world's gonna follow comes, he's got to have a narrative. Like, he's got to have an adversary. If he's going to copy God, he's got to have some sort of something he's going to evangelize to the world with.
Yeah.
And also an adversary, right? And I think that that's like the demiurge and this whole idea or whatever. But it makes me think Sophia because, what's his name? Nikola Tesla was a very smart man, very renowned scientist, physicist, but was an occultist.
Mhm.
People kind of like don't include that in his story.
Right.
He was experimenting with universal energy, right?
Yeah.
And remember that word universal, right? There's some connections with the Catholic Church, right? Because it kind of means universal. Also, you have the idea of like this Christ consciousness, another universal term. And plus the world's kind of being pushed with this narrative of interconnectedness, right? Like,
They are.
hive
Yeah.
mind,
It's a big
right?
thing.
Like, we've all kind of
Yeah.
heard this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I think a anyway, Tesla was working on this energy, and he was also a divine feminine advocate. He was someone that wrote a lot
Interesting.
about the divine feminine. He was
Mm.
actually, I think he worshiped the divine feminine. I think he was actually interacting with this figure, and he wrote something called Queen Bee. And he's like, this is how society needs to be in the future, is exactly how, like, a queen runs its hive, right? It's ran by the divine feminine queen.
Yeah.
Um, there's balance throughout the hive, right? And there's unity, right? So, and those two things there also line up with how Nimrod and Babylon came together. They line up also with how I think New World Order, Antichrist, and everything else in the end is going to kind of come together, is to build this kind of connected system through artificial intelligence. Now, where's the connection with Sophia? Well, Nikola Tesla was working on this energy, and I think he thought it had a connection to Sophia, because the alchemists back in the day, they would try to mash together or mix together in some sort of whatever concoction, right? They were scientists, right? So they're trying to figure out this element of life called the ether. And what you would do is
Right.
you would put together, all the four elements of creation, and you do this in some sort of way. Alchemical change gives you the ether, this dark matter, this elixir of life. I don't know, like they tried to extract this energy out of these things as well. I don't know if you guys are familiar.
Mhm.
I mean, you guys are obviously familiar with this, I know this, but it's Indiana Jones, right? Come on.
I've heard of it once
Yeah.
or twice.
Right.
Yeah.
so so in that movie, they actually show you basically the Vril Society. The Vril Society took place before the Thule Society. Thule Society became the German Workers' Party or whatever, and Hitler and the Nazis and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the Vril Society was focused on trying to retrieve relics and trying to retrieve certain things so that they can extract this ether energy out of these things and create like things that would give them eternal life. It's like the same thing
Right.
going on in the garden, but it's with this energy source, right? So I think that, Sophia AI, whatever, I think this could be the fruit that we're offered, and deceived into taking to give us eternal life, transhumanism and all this kind of stuff. And we're to be connected with it. It kind of follows in line. I know it's all over the place, but it kind of follows in line with um, some of these occultists and their ideas for the world in the future.
Yeah.
It's weird, man.
It is super weird. And I almost wonder, and this is me talking directly out of my butthole, but I wonder if, AI could exist to kind of bring about the embodiment of Sophia. And as this disclosure stuff happens, because I mean, at least in my limited understanding of a lot of the Gnosticism stuff out there's like a divine feminine, divine masculine. Could it be some kind of weird like uniting of the two in some sort of like culmination of the Antichrist, essentially? I don't know, with the aliens, the Greys, or whoever's out there, and the this new AI generated embodiment of the divine feminine. I don't know.
It's there, man. There's something there. And plus with the Bledsoe narrative being pushed too, with the UFOs and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
One thing that people may not know about Gnosticism, but Sophia is supposed to be like that intermediary to help you defeat the enemy, by being that connector of the spiritual and the physical, right? So to me,
Okay.
that just sounds like a counterfeit Christ.
It does, yeah. Like
Yeah.
something to
Sounds like
bridge the gap
you
in a
see?
weird, creepy way. Yeah.
Right. It's Satan's perspective
Yeah.
of everything, and what more blasphemous, or how it's
Yeah.
super blasphemous to kind of claim that God is a woman, right? And Gary Wayne, I've had him on, and he talks about this too, and he's like, that is, when you sense something like that, it should tell you fallen angel agenda. Like, this is, they fallen angels and that realm, right? Because Satan's not alone, right? You know, Revelation 12, he takes a third of the angels, right?
Right.
I think that they did not like the order that God had set out.
Right.
They liked what is called balance. They don't want a system with a chain of command, right?
Mm.
Because then you kind of have to like work hard and promote through the system, right? And then they just want it's like it's so funny because in it's like socialism. It's like just everyone gets this is balance, right? And these are two characteristics to pick up something that may be, connected to Satan's agenda. It's either if you hear something that is like about balance and unity, both, and if you hear both of those things, just know that I don't think the road is going to, I don't think it's the yellow brick road, dude, going, to wherever, but because that's what's going to bring together, this new world order that at the end of the day, and I think with what we see with Trump is a very interesting figure, man. I mean, he's got, Apollo painted on the ceiling of his penthouse, in New York City. But he's got so many weird connections. And he just created something called the Board of Peace.
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys see this?
Yeah.
We're trying to raise $1 billion to get on that board. Yeah, we're very excited.
It's $1 billion to get on the board.
Yeah.
Oh
you
my
can
goodness.
give
It has
$1 billion.
It has an entrance fee.
Yeah. So you can buy a seat on the Board of Peace. Yeah.
Well, this caught my attention, man. It was something, and I just found out about it the other day. But I mean, what are your guys' thoughts with that?
Is like the whole thing that you just kind of described going into the board piece is interesting to me. I'm reading through Michael Heiser's The Unseen Realm right now. I'm about a quarter of the way through it. But one of the points that he made that I thought was super profound is this idea that kind of the whole deception is that they're trying to imitate Eden, right? That's what you kind of see when they're trying to like push utopia and like push this idea of togetherness and this idea of kind of balance and peace, right? Is they're trying to imitate Eden because that's what humanity had in Eden, right? And they're trying to pervert that, and they're trying to sell you that you're going back to Eden when you're not. And it's, with the whole Trump Board of Peace thing, it's they're just, again, they're trying to sell that false idea of going back to Eden. And that's the deception.
That's a great point, man. I watched a movie a couple of weeks ago. It's called Together. It's with James or whatever Franco.
Whichever one. They're interchangeable.
Yeah, they're gay. Anyways,
They are gay.
my wife is attracted to one of them. Sucks. Anyways,
we all have crosses we have to bear,
It's funny. Well, the movie, it's about him and his wife, and they go to this. They have to move to this location. His wife relocated to get a different job. She starts at this job and has a conversation with her new boss. She's like, "Yeah, I live here." He's like, "Oh, wow, there's a great place to go hike." Right? And he's like, "It'll help your marriage." So she goes, gets Franco. They go hike in this area. They fall into a cave. It's got a satanic pool there or something. I don't know. He drank the water. I said, don't drink the water. He drank the water. Anyways, it's a black goo water, which there's a lot of symbolism with the black goo. And I've got some stupid theories on it, but it connects to kind of like Gnosticism and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But basically, he had a connection with a demon, and this demon was forcing both him and his wife to become one. Like they were literally merging together to become one body, an androgynous being, which is mystical, and it actually backs up what you were saying. They want this utopia, they want this Eden, they want balance, they want unity, but they also they want balance so much that, listen, you can see it in the culture today, right? Like there's confusion of genders. Like, what's going on here? Well, I think they're trying to demoralize, people so much that gender just doesn't become a thing anymore. People are so you know, integrated with their genders and whatever gender
Yeah.
fluidity, whatever it's called, man.
Whatever
But
gay nonsense they're touting. Yeah.
yeah, but that just shows you the spirit behind all this kind of stuff. It
Right.
shows you that there's something to the duality, um, you
Yeah.
know, connection, Satan, the occult, all this kind of stuff. Plus, it's in the Talmud as well that Adam was like this androgynous being. You
I did
know?
not know that
Did
was
not
in
know
that.
And
Yeah.
you know, Adam being this androgynous being in the garden, and God split them, right? And took them away, took them away from this godlike status that they had, right?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
That's the gayest thing I've ever heard. I'm just imagining that and like
And
so Adam was in the garden and then he split a little bit. He was kind of lonely. He needed a friend. He just needed another friend. That's sorry, that's
Yeah.
that's how I heard that in my head. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, I mean that they think that when God, you know, created Eve out of Adam, he was actually doing something you know, bad, right? It's just another
Yeah.
Gnostic view of it, right?
Yeah.
It's just we're better together as one. I think this the movie pushed the whole spirituality of becoming oneness and becoming, it's just pushing more of that idea, putting it in people's heads.
Yeah.
You know, why not be positive and why don't we all come together, right? Sounds great.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal point. And one of the things that I think with all the weird like utopias they're trying to push, because they constantly are these weird like dystopian narratives, and they all kind of go hand in hand with the idea of unity, right? Everybody's going to be the same and we're all going to be friends and we're all going to hold hands and frolic and it's going to be fantastic. But what I think is at the end of that is the problem is it's compulsory. And whenever something like that is compulsory, we wind up with a whole mess of issues. Not to mention like the weird satanic merging of the sexes, all the faggotry, like that's obviously problematic. But I think the whole idea of like a genuine, what I would consider to be like a genuine spiritual utopia, is it's not compulsory. It's all based on the idea of like just the presence of the creator and the order that automatically, there's nothing to bring back to order. There's already order in the idea of creation. And this sick, twisted idea of we need to impose this upon you because you're, you know, gross, because you're profane is, I think, one of the easier ways to recognize even some of those utopian ideas that sound nice, if that tracks.
Dude, I think they're getting some of this stuff. You know, it's so funny, man. We've all seen Joe Rogan, right? Obviously. Probably why we all have podcasts.
Probably.
Probably.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a fair. I don't like to admit that. Like that makes me feel gross and a little gay. Sign up for BetterHelp or whatever. Yeah, it makes me. Yeah, but you're right.
Well, Alex Jones was on his show. It was one of the first. I remember he was wearing like a NASA shirt, right?
Yeah, I
we
watched
went
both
on a
of those
huge
Alex
rant.
Jones episodes in one
Yeah.
weekend and drank like 3 bottles of wine. It was bad. Yeah, it was a rough weekend for me.
That'd been pretty awesome. Anyways, but you know, Alex Jones is on there. And he's like, you know, they're the elites. They're connecting. They're taking DMT and drugs, and they're connecting to these entities in
Right.
these interdimensional realms, and they're getting information, and they're coming back here, and they're doing what the agenda they've been given from these things. Right. So
Yeah.
when I was digging and studying and researching the Raelian cult, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it was established by a guy who was given the name Rael by entities that abducted him, took him, for a vacation to their planet, which he loved, and came back and was basically evangelizing to us.
Is he
what
French?
They told him. He's French, yes.
Okay, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so Claude Volrion or something. I don't know. It's a super French last name. But, he was supposedly, right, alleged abducted out of a crater in the, central France, was told to bring a Bible with him, and these entities reinterpreted the whole entire Bible to him.
Oh, geez.
With a complete Gnostic twist on everything, which kind of like at this point, man, if you've been studying this stuff, you've been down the road this long, you have to see it's very obvious. It comes down to two things, man. It's like it's the Bible and Christ versus like just everything Gnostic, dude. It's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
different titles, right? There's different companies or businesses. Gnostic, they're all Gnostic. Just kind of get that whole idea. Oh shit, I forgot where I was going with this. What was I getting into? Oh, Rael. So he
Yeah.
gets a Bible, gets abducted, goes out there. And they're basically telling him that, the world has to come to this acceleration of the certain state of consciousness before they can reveal themselves to us. It's up to us, right, to kind of go and stimulate and exploit this divine spark that we all have and lift our consciousness up to a certain plane. A lot of people have talked about this as well, not from his experience and not from the entities that he experienced it from, but people like Alana Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, and people like this talking about this utopian state, which seems to line up to be an agenda from these entities. They've all got like some different stories, but it's the same. It's the same overall idea, right? To build a utopia here, accelerate our consciousness, do it with technology if you have to.
Right.
But come together. Unity is a really big thing that these entities preach as well, right? Balance is another thing as well. No division,
It was
no
on the Georgia
borders.
Guidestones too. Yeah.
All this Georgia Guidestones. Yeah, I actually been there, man. Those are kind of nuts.
Yeah.
I was there a little before they actually got blown up.
Yeah.
But that this is like this utopia, and again, it kind of like goes back. Just look at some of the people in the Bible. And Nimrod's a very important figure, man, because I think Nimrod was like this first antichrist. And if you can kind of like look at what Nimrod did, I know that it's a chapter and a half, maybe a couple chapters long in the Bible, right, about Nimrod.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not much.
But you look at just the story of what happened, right? The people came together, right? I think a part of the tower and its purpose was to go to war, right, with
Yeah.
God, because God said, well, anything that they imagine to do, they won't, they're going to be able to do it. This isn't good. I got to go down there. I got to confuse this. This ain't good, because what does that mean, right? That anything
Yeah.
that they can imagine to do, they'll be able to do. Well, then I go back to that Moses story I was talking about earlier. That's incredible, and I think that these magicians casted their staffs down on the ground, imagining it to turn into a snake, but with what kind of power, right?
Right.
Which what I'm getting to is basically making a connection with Tower of Babel, with artificial intelligence. Was the tower helping people, do metaphysical science, right? To manipulate the subphysical realm. Like, what I kind of explain to people is we've got three realms here, man. It's pretty simple. We have a physical realm. I can see you, you can see me. I
Yeah.
can throw a dart on a dartboard. Boom. I saw it. Well, I need things in the physical realm to see the subphysical realm. I need a microscope. I need I can't see red blood cells, right? Microorganisms, whatever.
Sure.
Metaphysical world, we can't see it. And there's a threshold in between that subphysical and that metaphysical, right? But you can use the metaphysical to manipulate the subphysical. And honestly, it's kind of crazy because I don't know the science behind it, but it gets down to the basically changing anything in its physical matter, solid, liquid, gas. It could just change into a whole new thing. Again, I can't really wrap my head around that. But that's what they were doing. These magicians, and these were in Egypt with pyramids. And I think that the pyramid has a lot of connections with the tower. Okay. Like
Yeah.
we get this,
Oh, that makes sense.
pop
I never thought about
cultural-
that before.
like we get this pop cultural idea. The Tower of Babel is like this cylinder shaped exterior walk staircase going up, right? Which maybe, but I don't. The evidence isn't consistent with that. But the evidence is consistent with ziggurats, pyramids, and all this other kind of crap, dude. Like these things are all around the world, which I think they're all around the world because when God, divided all of those languages and spread those people out, they kind of left going, dude, we need to do what we did back there. I just
Right.
can't understand those people.
Yeah.
But since we can all understand each other,
Let's go
let's
over
come
here and do
together
that.
and do it
Yeah.
over here.
Yeah.
Let's throw wands down and they turn into snakes, dude. Like, who doesn't want to do that?
I'd enjoy it. It sounds entertaining. I don't like snakes, but I'd try it. You know?
Yeah. But I just think AI in the future can be something that can kind of guide us in the same way. I don't know.
I would imagine you're pretty spot
like
on, because it feels like that's where it's
Yeah.
headed. Yeah, I mean, we're already doing that on a computer screen. How much longer is it before that legitimately happens? And to your point about the way like the metaphysical manipulates the physical, I've even heard, so like my background was in like functional medicine in school throughout college and that stuff. But one of the things that I've heard, and this may sound insane to a paramedic, I kind of forgot who I was talking to for a second. One of the things some of these like kind of out there practitioners will do to diagnose like an illness with somebody is they'll draw blood, right? They'll take the blood over here, then they'll perform tests on that person, right? Typically, it's like energy medicine type stuff. I don't know how familiar you are with that. It's like there might be electrical tests. We might poke a certain point on your body, and maybe something to do with acupuncture. And then they will observe whatever fluid they've drawn to see if there are any like structural changes. And it's the idea of like these two things, because they were once part of the same thing, are kind of tied together on a frequency level. And I mean, after a while, obviously, like those blood cells will die, and then we can't observe any change in them anymore. But like that is a practice that has at least appeared in some circles to bear fruit concerning like people's chronic like health and wellness is concerned. And it's another area where like people will study like xylitol crystals and the way they form in like a lab one place, and if they disrupt the formation of those, some lab, halfway across the world will also, like, the formation of those will also be disrupted. And so, at least in my head, like, it's a legitimate observable manifestation of the way the subphysical, the metaphysical reacts with and changes our observable reality. And so I swore I wasn't going to get into this, but to me, it's almost like transcending from like the spiritual plane into the physical plane, and the way those are separated does seem like very strange to me, because I personally don't really seem to observe any kind of like demonic or angelic presences ever. Maybe I'm vibrating on the wrong frequency, I don't know, but those changes are obviously observable, and I see those as coming from a very spiritual place. I don't know what y'all's thoughts on that are. I think it's, yeah.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, like look at what they're doing at CERN, dude. Like, where's that
Oh yeah, right. That's so weird and occult, and they're stabbing Shiva in the out there in the front or whatever they're doing. Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I did a show with Tim Constantine, and he had a lot of really interesting takes on a lot of stuff. Cernunos, a bunch of interesting gods behind that whole CERN thing in Geneva, Switzerland. But
yeah,
we're just curious. Like, humans are curious, man. And
Yeah.
CERN, they're so curious. They're actually at the speed of light, almost the speed of light, colliding particles together and smashing them together. And as they're exploding and breaking up into pieces, they're trying to figure out like what's inside it, right? So if you're like if you're a caveman, right? And you come across something, a piece of pottery or something, you're like, what is this? The first thing that they would probably do is like break it to see what's inside of it, right?
it's rational, kind of.
Right?
Yeah,
Or to be like, oh wow, this is how this was made. Oh whoa, they used this, right? They're doing the same crap at CERN, man. And I think that, with what they're trying to really figure out is ancient Jewish mystic Kabbalism, right? And they're trying to really figure out the quantum physics of this realm, of this physical space. And not only is CERN working on that, but we also got, people diligently working on, quantum computing
right.
technology, which is incredible, because those computer systems, they actually really have to stay so cold. I mean, it's like way below
Yeah.
negative. just to produce power and to compute, and they can only really do it for a short duration of time. I've heard people talking about it. Gordy Rose is one of them. He's the D-Wave CEO guy, created it, sold it, whatever he's doing, philanthropist. But very smart guy. He's actually talked about that what they're working on at CERN, what they're working on with quantum computing, that these will be vessels for other entities from dimensions to come right in and walk in and just live amongst you. You wouldn't even know it. And that these robots that they're working on and building are just so realistic, looks incredibly real. You wouldn't be able to distinguish it from a human. And these things will just live amongst us. To me, that just sounds like fallen angel, dude, because
It does. Yeah.
I mean, Lot ate with angels, right? The angels, hey, it's an Alberino thing, right? He's
can't escape those these days.
No.
NDS, man, they did it, dude. This is going to be out for a while, but Timothy makes a good point here. Angels look like us, right? And to a degree, absolutely. I just think things they're subject to change.
Right.
And we really can't be super dogmatic about this certain idea. But
that's how you make yourself look like an expert, right? Just say the same thing over and over again. I feel like that helps.
Yeah. No. What are your guys' thoughts, right? This guy who owns a D-Wave company, which is a quantum chip company, quantum computing chip company, and his words in the future, he's saying that in the future, basically, we're going to be living amongst entities that you won't even know you're living amongst. Because it's an AI quantum computing chip in these things. It's able to open a door for things that are of a space we have no idea about, by the way.
Yeah,
it's
right.
weird.
We have no apparent concept for how these things work. They just claim that they do, right? Some way or other. They allege that they're the way it works is it's actually interacting with another dimension, and it allows you to do a lot of computing all at once because they're all firing at the same time. And to me, that doesn't track. It's got to be something else, obviously, because it's never what these white coat pseudo priests tell you. But it does seem very something's going to come out of that and embody something somewhere, and it makes me wonder. Do some of these demonic spiritual entities, do they need a vessel? I've always imagined they don't need one. They just be whenever they want to be. They just be. Do they need us to prepare some kind of vessel for them to inhabit in some of these instances? And I'm sure it varies between, class, kind of the same way there are classes of angels, all of which I don't remember, but I would imagine the same thing is true of the fallen angels, right? They're probably different classes of them. We have seraphim, that's one, and there are others. So I would wonder if some of them kind of need a vessel to inhabit, or I think but I don't know. That would be my best guess.
Man. I think they crave it.
I would say that because it's if you take the idea of what demons are, is that they're, unclean, disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, most killed after the flood. Is they had flesh and blood, and it was taken from them because they weren't supposed to have it, and they craved to get that back. And that's probably the biggest motivating factor behind that, is just trying to get a body to inhabit. Because it was taken from them, and that's why demons, they try to possess as much as they can. So yeah, that tracks. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Look at when Christ casted out the legion, right? He was about to cast them out, but they were like, "Oh my goodness, don't cast us out."
Yeah, can we at least have
pigs.
the pigs?
I'd rather jump into the ocean and die.
Yeah.
That is an odd Sophie's choice. That's an odd dichotomy. Yeah. It's never occurred to me that way. The way they must crave some kind of embodiment, because at least in the religious spiritual tradition I come, people don't talk about that. We glance over the whole idea of Oh, but it's a short passage in the Bible of like Nimrod and what in the world. He was a mighty warrior before the Lord, and now it means people are retarded. Like that's the most we get out in any one setting about Nimrod, right? Or like the story of Genesis 6, like in Moses, or not Moses, Noah, and you know and even like discussions of some of these alleged biblical texts, which is something I'd actually like to ask you both about. Like a lot of that is glossed over and not discussed, but it is very odd the way they seem to crave physical like presence. And so to me, and this is me just playing into this Alberino nonsense, I can't get away from it, but it seems to be almost like a proof of there being some kind of legitimate separation or veil, if you want to use like very biblical terminology, between our like physical raw presence, if you will, and the spiritual. It seems like there is some kind of fundamental break between the two. Not that there's nothing that can bridge the gap, but there does seem to be some kind of functional separation looking at it through that lens to me.
No, yeah.
I don't know what y'all think.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's funny because I forget, I think it's in Jude, right? So it says that the fallen angels did not keep their first estate, right? And they basically left heaven, right?
Yeah.
And they fell into sin. Some were casted down into Tartarus or whatever, right? Some are locked up, right? Some angels are locked up in the abyss or whatever it is.
Right.
But I think there's a temptation, and I think there's something that they can, something that we enjoy that they're not allowed to, right? So if those angels leave their heavenly estate, they shed their okatarian, which is basically in some sort of way like leaving the heavenly physical realm and coming into the physical realm and manifesting in flesh.
Mhm.
And now you've got all of these humanly pleasures that you're not only tempted with, but you want to do, right? Like
Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, it's a hard thing to deal with, right? Like
Yeah.
human pleasure, right? Especially if you're trying not to, do certain things or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's tempting all around. And I think that's kind of like what led to them seeing, the daughters of men were fair, and they took them wives. And
Yeah.
why not do what possibly took place in the garden, but do it in Genesis 6? Like what I mean by that is because there, my boy Doc Brown, he goes on shows and he talks about, he gets into the seed war, right? Like the serpent seed, and Genesis 3, this is kind of like where it all took place. Cain and Abel, yada, 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 serpent seed, woman seed, right? So there's a clear distinction between these two people, right? Cain and Abel. But there is a side of it, and it's supported that this was the seed of the serpent, like literal seed of the serpent. So if anything, in Genesis 3 we have like the first incursion, even before Genesis 6.
Right.
Yeah.
Fallen angels in Genesis 6 are like, hey,
That looked pretty good.
Cain killed Abel, I thought it was over, but now Seth's here, so we got to come down and we got to disrupt this bloodline here because Christ is coming through it. So our time is short. Let's act. Let's work. And I think that that's what they did. I think there was a big agreement behind it. And I think that that's kind of like just where we get our pantheons today. And they're all paralleled and they line up pretty good. Some things change. Some minor details change with certain things. Names change. But at the end of the day, it just seems like this is what a very old ancient world believed in. Right. And who knows what the world exactly was like before the flood, because I do think after the flood, I mean, it was wiped out, man. I mean, it's like roadkill.
Right.
But I think that's why we see the cultures and the civilizations have everything set up the way they do. And I think maybe, in the times of Revelation or the future, this is all going to circle back around, what's the world, you think, I'll ask you guys this question. Do you think the world is kind of like prepared to accept paganism again?
It feels like it. One of the things that shocked me, I feel like we've talked about this before, maybe off air, but the way that weird neo-paganism is starting to experience a resurgence very publicly in some cases. Like I see people even on social media, the few times I get on there, like talking about like this is what it means to be pagan. And that's something you never would have seen like 10 years ago. They would have been absolutely, and this is where I'm a big proponent of bullying. They would be bullying till they cried and maybe considered the ultimate act. Like that's where bullying can do good things. And so I see that, and I find it concerning because it's the open brazenness of the acceptance of what I would consider to be like worship of unclean spirits at its very core, that appears to be experiencing like this age nouveau type movement now to me.
Yeah, and we had like a weird personal experience with this. Like what, 6 or 8 months ago, we went to eat after doing a recording, and we were talking with the waitress at Waffle House, and she was talking about how she was like into the worship of all of these old gods.
Oh yeah, I
Remember that
forgot about that.
conversation?
Yeah, that's what we never saw her again.
And we never saw her again, but it was just like
Yeah.
we were in like the Bible Belt South, and she was just kind of openly talking about how she was like into all of these different kind of pagan religions.
Yeah.
It was an interesting conversation, but it just blew my mind because it's like that would not have happened, 10 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. All at a Waffle House.
All at a Waffle,
At a
House.
Waffle House.
Yeah.
Great food. Great food. Was there
Great
not too
food.
long ago.
Even better people.
Oh yeah.
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 I get the jalapenos and the hash brown. I get just
Oh yes.
just do whatever you want to it.
Yeah. It's make it
know?
sloppy, make it dirty. It's Waffle House.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always someone missing a tooth that works there. I don't know why.
I feel like it's very
Always
important
someone
to
missing
the
a tooth.
Waffle House brand. If I walk in and somebody is not missing a tooth, I will walk out. That makes me uncomfortable. I
Right.
feel like that's a
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's old ladies at IHOP. Old ladies at
Yes.
Yeah.
IHOP. Old lady servers. You're like, dude, why are you working?
How do you still
Why?
move? Yeah. You look aggressively arthritic. Be home with your grandchildren.
You've got 8 tables.
Yes. And you've been smoking a menthol this whole time. How have you managed that? It's wild.
It's funny, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just with this idea that we're talking about, I think it kind of circles back around to these things that want to, possibly possess AI and whatever that's going to look like, robots or whatever. And now we have maybe, I mean, like going back to what Gordy Rose was talking about these artificial intelligent robots. I mean, he said that they would figure out the world's biggest problem in a second. Like,
Yeah.
and figure out a solution to it and figure out, and like,
Yeah.
these could be something that we worship as a god. Who
like
knows
we're
what
halfway there
that's gonna-
already, yeah.
that's gonna look like.
Yeah.
And who knows, what if they get integrated with society so much that the AI gives us permission to do things, which is coming, by the way. And I've done some research on this topic, and it sucks, man, because it's slightly
Yeah.
depressing, but who cares? I mean, things that got to get talked about, man, because I think it's
Yeah.
a grid that they do want to set up to where we have a data intermediary. That data intermediary is going to be in some sort of AI platform that's programmed just for you, right? It's like your
Mm-hmm.
secretary, and
Yeah.
basically I think society will come to some sort of like a socialism, technocracy. There's rules, right?
Mhm.
We see movies play out like this all the time, Hunger Games and so on and so forth. I mean, it's kind of like crazy in Hunger Games, but I just think a general concept can lay out in the future. I mean, if you
Yeah.
think about it, what we see politically right now is there's a lot of conquering going on. Venezuela,
Yeah.
Greenland,
Mhm.
the Technate map of 1943 is starting to come out in the media space a little bit, which is basically a map of what Trump is doing. Yet it was talked about in 1943, and it was produced.
Weird
by,
how
I
it comes
think
back
was,
around. Yeah.
I think it was the Club of Rome. I think it came from the Club of Rome, which has connections to the Committee of 300, and then so on and so forth. John Todd, this guy who came out a long time ago, he's talked about that basically above uh those people, you have the 13 families, and then you've got like
Right.
these people actually serve Satan. Um, which with that concept, man, like looking at Hollywood, seeing kind of like how what's going on in Hollywood,
It's weird.
just celebrity wise, man, it's just it's dark. It's just you catch a vibe, right? Like you catch a vibe from these people that seems like maybe they're up to no good. They're cool, but they're up to no good, right?
Right.
The Francos, those bastards. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's make a movie where we're gonna become one. We're
It's
gonna just
weird,
promote
yeah.
to the world. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Just I don't know.
Not to switch gears on you guys, but there's something I wanted to ask you about, and I want to make sure we got to it.
Cool.
So I'm curious, and I've just started reading some of these, what a lot of people would call, what I tend to refer to for sake of ease, like extra biblical texts. Enoch, the Book of Adam and Eve, the Book of Jubilees, all of those, right? The Book of John, all that stuff. I've always found it very weird, and I don't know where you're at on the idea of numerology, but like God is pretty intentional in the Bible about a lot of very specific numbers, right? 12 apostles, 12 spies, walk around the city 7 times, dip 7 times in the he's very specific about the numbers he uses and chooses to employ. And so one of the things I've always found odd since I was a less retarded child than I am an adult was the fact that we have 66 books in the canon. Like, that seems kind of backwards to me. Maybe that's an insane person. Maybe that's me just being like this contrarian that doesn't like to accept mainstream narratives. I don't know. But I've heard people always talk about, like, the Book of Enoch's a good example. I think the nice scientific word is, what is it? Pseudoepigraphical, something like that.
Yeah.
What are y'all's thoughts on the idea of, like, is there a genuine inspired collection of, I think it's strange, 66 books? Like, we're one number short of the beast, or not? Because the terminology we use surrounding things that we consider to be inspired and things that we don't, for me, like, because reading even like the Book of Enoch the first time was like eye-opening to me from a spiritual perspective. Is that part of the kind of the grand illusion, the great deception, to kind of hide some of the greater truths about reality, the creator, and the place we're in, today?
I want to hear you, John. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Then I'll...
Yeah, I've been thinking through this a lot, and I literally got to this part. So I bought the expanded edition of Michael Heiser's Unseen Realm, where he went in and like wrote notes about what he wrote. And I think it's in chapter 11 or 12, he actually wrote down his opinion on the canon when he got into Enoch. And he basically said that, especially the people who debate is like, should Enoch be a part of the canon or not, it's kind of pointless because it's incredibly obvious that Enoch influenced the worldview of the biblical writers. Peter referenced it in his letter, Jude referenced it in his letter. So it's like debating if it's part of the canon or not. It's kind of pointless because you should read it because it clearly informed their worldview and clearly informed their thought process and clearly informed their theology. And I wrote down in my notes, because I've been, writing a bunch of notes as I go through this book. I wrote down, it's almost like he's saying, it's like, to a degree, there's not really maybe much of a point of the biblical canon as we think of it, and just let Scripture speak for itself and the Holy Spirit speak for itself in the words of the text. And I thought that was an interesting idea, and something I'm still working through.
That makes sense.
But it was an interesting thought. Yeah, I still don't have a great answer though, because it's like it's Enoch is very clear, but also it's either what Jubilees or Jasher that gets into the whole story of the Tower of Babel. Like, there is a lot of these kind of extra canonical texts that really do intertwine with the Bible a lot, and Enoch is obviously the main one because it's like it tells the story of Genesis 6, and obviously Peter references, he references the story like very verbatim because he mentions the angels being banished to Tartarus. So yeah, it is very interesting, and I've just haven't worked out my best thought on it. the story of the Canon and the Council of Nicaea has always been sketchy to me. I by
Seems
nature
weird, doesn't it?
and I'm by nature sketchy of like any type of like human authority saying this is what this is. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on all of that?
I remember this was something that always kind of, man, it was consuming me. And I let it go because I think it's I think it's like one of those like doors in like the huge corporate like executive buildings, and it's revolving. It just continue. You're just going to keep chasing around and around and around, because there's always going to be someone that's going to advocate for something, and they're going to back it up and justify it pretty well, and you're going to get pulled around, and you're going to get pulled, right? So I've learned a lot from Michael Heiser, and what you said is it's very impactful, and it's something that I agree with, and I see it that way. I do think God's word is God's word. I don't think you can do anything I think you can do certain things, kind of like a chess game, to get in the way of God's strategy, to get in the way of what it is he's trying to do, or else like there wouldn't be an unseen realm, there wouldn't be a spiritual battle, right, between good and evil, and there's these forces that supposedly are like acting and influencing mankind, and then whatever. But what's interesting about the Book of Enoch, it's multiple books in Enoch. The Book of the Watchers is very interesting. If anything, I think that there's some important information in there to help articulate things that, areas that are like gaps within the Bible, right? You can speculate on certain things. We just don't really know, but some things really do fit. Obviously, there's some scripture that's backed up. When it was written, right? First century, or what was the first century Jew reading? Probably like it was in the literature. Michael Heiser has a really good look at it. He doesn't believe it was inspired scripture, but it can still be literature. It can still be some. It's kind of like I think Bible is Bible, right? It's Bible to me, but I can still go read like an encyclopedia. I can still go or I can still go read a history book of the first century temple or whatever, and like it can line up with some things in the Bible, right? So there's two different sources that you can get information from. It's just they're not in the same book, but and who knows, because I know that the Catholic Church was behind a lot of stuff, right? And this is kind of like where this argument goes to Nicaea and whatnot. But when you look at things moving throughout history like that, you can see the move and the counter move, and like the move and the counter move. So when they did that, right, they basically were in charge of reading the Bible to people and all this kind of stuff. And then boom, like the typewriter came out, right? And then people could start reading the Bible for themselves. And you have like an explosion of like this Protestant Reformation, where just everything divides away from the Queen Bee, in my opinion, the Catholic Church, right? Queen Mary, all this kind of stuff. If you look at it from a spiritual perspective, and God was just, it was a Tower of Babel incident where God just said, nope, I'm going to create all these denominations. I'm going to set it free.
It's never occurred to me like that. Oh, that's a good parallel. Sorry.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So God does these things purposely. And maybe his purpose is for not all to work out according to plan, but it gets the job done. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, right.
Try not to go too crazy on that topic or whatever, because I think, you can get caught in a space where you think you know what you're talking about, but then you were ignorant to the information that that counteracts what your thoughts are. That makes sense. So
that consistently happens when I open my mouth.
It's a very interesting topic, man. It really is.
Yeah, it's interesting because you just see and it was something that wasn't very clear to me in growing up in my church tradition, that like other church traditions had different Bibles. I didn't know that until like a year ago. And it's like I went to a 12-year Christian high school and a 4-year Christian college. I had no
Same.
clue that that was
Yeah.
a thing. And I see what you're saying. It does kind of put you in a kind of spinning rabbit hole that you can never get out of.
Well, I'll tell you this too. Like, I come from like a independent fundamental Baptist like background. When I was back at home down South Florida, this is like what I was involved in and stuff. But here's the thing, like, and my buddy, works at the church. He's the principal there. He's an assistant pastor, all this kind of stuff. Like, I'll mention this question to him, right? And the Bible is God's word, and it's exactly perfect, and all this kind of stuff. But then they will believe that the King James Bible is the only Bible that is like perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Which then is alluding to an idea that someone is changing God's word, or
Right.
at least in some sort of infiltration, and is working against it. Right. So with that idea, that they actually believe that something is happening against the word of God. So with that said, I think that, there is something happening against God's word. I think that, there's a war against it. Of course, there's a war against it. It's still here, which is incredible, by the way. Like, it's just like incredible amount of world leaders that have tried to destroy this thing, and it just hasn't really been done.
Kids keep throwing rocks in caves and finding stuff. That just keeps happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Dead Sea Scroll, right? Dead Sea Scrolls kind of helped back that stuff up as well. I mean, there's a bunch of other writings in there too that, the dates of these things hold credibility, and what people were reading at that time, and was this the worldview everyone had at that time? Because if that was the worldview that people had in that time, we are so far away
Yeah.
from that reality.
Yeah,
where we
and that
are.
almost seems like, what the attack to me, like what the attack on the Bible has been, is that every attack has been to kind of diminish as much as possible the supernatural worldview of the people who wrote it, and take that aspect out of it. Especially as like every translation that gets like more and more liberalized, that's what it's doing, is it's kind of taking that supernatural worldview out of it. So I'm curious kind of what your thoughts on there is, like what's going on there.
And not to tack onto that, but like that's kind of what I thought when I read some of those other texts for the first time, is like there's way more supernatural stuff going on here. There's way more discussion of like some of the wild, not science, like the stuff that doesn't jive with the religion of science that we have now in here. And if I had read this as like an 8-year-old, I probably wouldn't have carried around the Kingfisher Science Encyclopedia that I did as a dweeb in 3rd grade. Like, life would have probably been a lot better. But it seems like a lot of those are very strategically chosen. Again, and maybe this is me just like creating enemies where enemies don't exist, but strategically chosen to mask the nature of what we're dealing with. Yeah.
Sorry, real quick. The question again? My bad, brother.
The question, like, it seems to me that like a lot of the attacks that have been levied against the Bible have been in an effort to diminish its spiritual content and its spiritual nature, and to greatly kind of diminish the worldview that the writers had, that was seemingly to me predominantly supernatural. And so I'm kind of curious as to what your thoughts are on that idea, if that's what's actually kind of going on.
Yeah, and I look at it this way. I'm like, if Satan can't infiltrate or destroy what the message of the gospel, then he's going to do it somewhere else.
Right.
He's going to sift his way through and see how can I. These things, they don't really navigate with time and space, and so I really think that they have a way better idea of what's going to happen in the future and what's already happened in the past. It's weird, dude. It's like it's all on one spectrum rather than like we're in one direction with time. Their reality is like it's all over at once, and they're conscious in the way they can think. They can do certain things in your life to lead you, because they know in 5-10 years from what they just did now is going to impact you then. And this is like that metaphysical world. But I think that over time, that's what's happened. I think little by little, the supernatural perspective of the Bible has been taken away, right?
Yeah.
And it could have been easily manipulated by this spiritual world that we live on not being active, right? In a way, if something goes dormant or if something goes into hibernation for so long, you think it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And I think that that's what's happened with people today. It's kind of like, why don't they teach the Constitution in schools, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't want you to really know that information, because then you would look at something else with a different perspective. Well, the same thing goes with, why aren't they teaching that giants walked the earth in school, right? Like, or why aren't they teaching about a global flood catastrophe that hundreds of cultures around the world all
Acknowledge
talk
happened.
about
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, because it'll start to shift your perspective and your belief system. I think that's what Satan's after. He's after your belief system. It's all he cares about. Doesn't care about your sin, doesn't care about any of this other stuff. Yeah, that stuff, you know, impacts your relationship with God, and it kind of like, you know, is his way of going, huh, God, you saw him do this, right? It's like a whole Job scenario. But he wants to manipulate your belief system the most, man.
Yeah.
And I felt that with my UFO experience, right? Because again, I think that what we did in that moment was a CE5 program. We just didn't know it. We were ignorant to it.
Right.
We were influenced by propaganda to go out with intent to see something, which is manifestation. It is like an occult
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
But anyways, it shifted my paradigm, and I think it appeared to me specifically to throw me off, to try and get me into a different camp, if that makes sense. You know, a different camp of belief.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, it didn't know that I was gonna figure out, hey, these things could be fallen angels,
Right,
or
right.
whatever, right? And the biblical perspective supports the idea. And why not? If I was Satan, that's what I would do. I would defame the Bible of its supernatural characteristics, so that when things like this do happen to people that are Christians, they won't really have they won't have the answers, right?
Yeah.
And they won't know where to start to find them,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
then you'll just then you'll start to go towards any avenue you can to try and get those answers, you know, or get those questions answered, which is like new age stuff. And people are going down into these camps, and I mean, they're learning a lot because they're asking a lot of questions. But I think they're being told false information, obviously. But that's what people want, man. People want answers.
Yeah.
We're in the information age, baby. Like
Yeah.
Google, right? Like people
100%.
want answers now, and that's how we act. So, and that's a
Yeah.
big thing with the biblical hitman, man. So I'm just trying to maybe get my narrative out, to get God's narrative out there and see what it does. And I mean, a lot of people people that follow these shows, I mean, they'll tell you, man, I came out of the new age, man, you know, blah blah blah. I came from talking to ascending masters. Wow, I see the nefarious nature now. Like, there's certain things that make sense because now they've been introduced to biblical perspective, and now it's like it just ties it all together for them. They have their questions their questions are answered.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like that is like so necessary in like this day and age, especially as we've been talking about all this disclosure narrative. Because it's like, I think the disclosure narrative is one of the biggest dangers to like the modern 501c3 or country club church system that we have seen in a long time. Because it's like, if they make whatever that is convincing, it is going to challenge the worldview of the people who are in that system, who maybe don't understand the supernatural aspects of the Bible that, you know, we've been looking into. It's going to challenge them a lot, and it's going to make it very, very hard for those people to kind of rationalize the two together, if that makes sense. And as you said, it's like they're going to be looking for answers, and their worldview of the Bible doesn't really provide them those answers, so they got to go somewhere else, you know?
Where are you going to go with science at that point?
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, science to me is a religion at some point.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
they've made it into a religion. I think
Yeah.
science is just the understanding of how things work. But
Right.
Ideally, I would agree with you. Yeah.
With a little s, little
Right.
s science, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once it gets all caps, you get in some trouble.
You get in weird territory once that happens. Yeah. That's true.
Man.
Yeah. As we kind of, I guess, kind of start to wrap things up, to y'all's point, like the masking of the supernatural, just for a very like easy example, like it just went through this weird breakup, and towards the end of that relationship, she started seeing like this entity, right? This like thing. I couldn't see it, but it was. Hopefully, she's not listening. That'd be awkward. But this entity that was like allegedly hounding her, and I wondered two things. A couple things. Like my spiritual tradition has not armed me to discuss or address this thing in any way, shape, or form. Like that kind of supernatural stuff has been so masked from a lot of, like, at least in our little sect of America, religious tradition in this area, and kind of stripped from biblical text. It was a very raw example of how that knowledge has been hidden, I think, to a large degree, to our sect of just like white guys that go to church. So that seems problematic to me in that moment. But as you were talking about, you kind of made it back around to your experience, and I'm curious as to your opinion. And yours, John, are all aliens demons?
It's a great question, man. Very hot question on the block right now. Are aliens demons? I'd say, what is an alien? I guess
good
the
question.
first way I'd look at it, there's just so many different narratives out there with extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, grays, Nordics, insectoids, a lot of
Mexicans,
different.
Norwegians.
It goes pretty wild, man. Haven't seen
Yeah.
one, but face peelers. There's a lot
Right.
out there. Maybe there's something to it. I know L.A. Marzulli has kind of gotten into the idea that the idea is out there. I'm not saying he branded it, but he's been on my show talking about these things may be flesh suits where Nephilim spirits now can possess, and now they're able to go ahead and do work, right?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
that these things are like some sort of like AI, just flesh suit vessel that goes and does certain things for fallen angels of some sort. But then it gets into like the alien phenomenon. Is this an actual physical thing? Because
Yeah.
this is how I'm thinking, trying to put this in a perspective of like, yeah, are demons aliens? Because the demonic realm to me is spiritual. So how can the spiritual, how can demons manifest as aliens, right? It's kind of confusing. But I had my buddy Tim. He makes a good point. He's like, well, what princes, if we're talking about fallen angels, princes, right?
Sure.
What princes don't have armies? Are these aliens, these physical beings, extraterrestrial in nature? Are we looking at an army that these other fallen angel camps or whatever are making? But then this kind of switches, it really does something to your perspective of physical or spiritual. Because you can't say aliens are demons technically, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but they can probably contribute to it. I just don't know. I just don't know if we've ever had a physical alien being. If I consent to that, then I'm consenting to the government narrative that these guys are all actually telling the truth.
What's a good point?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that you just keep your head on a swivel.
Right.
We're all smart, man. We all got logic. We'll figure it out. It's just keep your head on a swivel. I keep an open mind to certain things, unless I'm like super dogmatic on something. But I think that there is more than just the physical idea of aliens. I think that there's a spiritual component of this. I think that there are orbs. I think that there are. I think there is plasma. I think that there is, dark ether, electromagnetic material out there that is able to like form into plasmoids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And appear and to be conscious. Like the
Yeah.
thing that I was looking at up into the mountains, this thing knew that we were kind of instigating it of some sort. Again, me and Jesse talk about this till this day. We were like, dude, when we started to kind of like, it's like
Yeah.
we didn't verbally we thought these things, so
Yeah.
it knew what we were thinking.
Right.
Which to me, when it like stood still and it started rising, it's like it almost like showed a dominance. It was almost like it was like, keep talking smack.
Yeah. See what happens.
Yeah.
Show you your orb daddy or whatever orbs say. I don't
Well,
know.
and I know you said you wanted to wrap up with this, but
No, I mean,
because
go for it.
Because this gets into like, the the flying objects. Like, is
Right.
this military objects? Are these extraterrestrial things that, has some affiliation with the demonic and the fallen angel realm? But are these physical crafts that our military are creating? The narratives that they're reverse engineering them. This is how
Right.
they have it. But
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think they might actually be reverse engineering them. Just that they're not, obviously from infinite nowhere from space. Is Sean Griffith. I don't know if you've watched his show Kingdom in Context. In his Investigating Babylon series, he talks about the ancient flying machines. I can't remember what the Babylonian flying machine was called. The Indian flying machine, they had Vimanas. Like all these ancient cultures had these flying machines kind of in their mythologies. And he kind of promoted the idea as like, hey, maybe they're just trying to kind of rebuild some of this ancient technology that was lost at some point.
Some of the stuff Azazel may have taught some
yeah,
of the people.
Yeah, it was pretty very interesting. And like, I mean, what the Egyptian god Ra doesn't he have like a flying boat or something like that? Like a lot of these,
even biblically, there's like chariots of fire. in
yeah,
the sky, right?
yeah.
So,
like a lot of ancient cultures had these like flying technologies, and you can get
And
into where they got it from. So
no, it
Yeah.
could be, man. And again, that's why I am like open to the idea, because maybe these things we've come across or found or unearthed or discovered because they were either buried or just from the deluge, right? The flood. You're
Right.
talking about things that were on surface level that definitely are not on surface anymore, but they're in these layers of the the geothermal layer of the ground or whatever it is. But yeah, maybe, right? Like maybe Bob Lazar could be telling the truth. Maybe they, or what is it? It's S4.
Yeah, S4.
S4 is back, reverse engineering the sports model and the Cadillac, whatever, all these different kind of model UFOs that they've probably maybe got from Antarctica. Maybe they took it from the Nazis. Maybe, who knows, right?
Israel, who knows? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I know I mentioned earlier, like, the Nazis they had campaigns, bro. Like they had missions way bigger than, what's the one, Operation High Jump, right? You
right,
see
yeah.
Operation High Jump as like this mission to go and retrieve certain things.
Yeah.
Well, the Nazis were doing these things on U-boats for years, man, and America had no idea about it, going from, Germany to Argentina to Antarctica, going back and forth. Who knows what's in the ice, man? Who knows
Yeah.
what's in the ice over there?
Right.
Have you seen the It movie? Right? I mean,
I've not.
oh, not
Me
wait,
neither.
wait, not the It movie. The Thing.
I need to watch
movie
that.
The
I've heard there's
Thing.
some weird stuff in that.
Oh, you
yeah, I haven't seen
that
it.
movie,
I haven't
The
either.
Thing?
I live under essentially Pride Rock.
They're-
That's
they're
what I
in-
live
they're
under.
in
Yeah.
Antarctica. It's a research team. They go out there and actually find this UFO, and basically in the ice, they find an alien. They cut this block of ice out of Antarctica, and they take it into their base. It thaws out, and then you get the gist from there. Pretty
Yeah.
bad, man.
That sounds like
Yeah.
a blast.
Yeah, man, it's fun.
Oh, I bet for the
And there were
Nazis it was a
Germans.
gas, if you will. Sorry.
It's
Do what? I missed that.
Nothing.
Okay.
I want to ask you guys, how did you guys come up with your name?
So me and Murph, the guy who was doing this with us before, we were both sitting down. He's autistic. I have Down syndrome flare-ups, and we were trying to figure out what name to call this because we had been having, like, Murph went off the deep end looking into a lot of stuff. What was it, like 2018 when he went insane and moved out into the woods? And he was essentially introducing me to a lot of the things we now talk about, like the regular everyday stuff around then, because all I knew back then was like nutrition science and germs are gay and that kind of thing. And so he was introducing me to the whole world. Like that was like we were talking about 9/11 and the kind of base level stuff. And I was like, you know what? It would be cool if we recorded this and were retarded in front of more people, because I feel like I would like to go back and listen to some of these conversations later for my own like edification, because I'm going to forget what you say because I don't think it matters that much in the moment, but then I'll remember it later and think, it's worthwhile. So we were looking for something to represent like the search for truth that we were both kind of felt like we were on at that point. And Latin being Veritas being the Latin word for truth. And I was like, what about something with Veritas? And that was the best we could do. So this is what it is. But it's all kind of representative of like the end game goal being search for like the honest, objective truth, which the more I learn, the more people I talk to, the more weird stuff I look into, the more I feel like all roads kind of lead back to the creator. Whether I'm looking into a book by Michael Heiser, which obviously like there are arrows all over that point back to the Bible. But like, even when you start to look into a lot of these conspiracies or into the disclosures discussion or into, pick your favorite, popular conspiracy theory, I think most of it, not 99 point, maybe all of it leads back to biblical truth on some level. There's no escaping it. And so that's kind of where the name came from. Well, that was a big nutshell, but yeah.
No, love it, man. Love it. Love what you guys are doing, man. And we just gotta keep going, keep pushing, keep trucking. I was on vacation, went on vacation, and then came back to work, and then just kind of like went hiatus from everything. I took a few weeks off. It was good.
But that felt nice. Yeah.
Vacations are nice, man. They're lovely. They don't come often, but they go by quick.
They do. I go back and forth on vacations. I feel like I come back from them more exhausted than I leave on, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's the pressure to have fun or the pressure to relax, but yeah, no, that tracks. Do you feel rejuvenated at all after the hiatus, or do you?
I do.
Okay.
I'm actually like super motivated, man. Yeah, I'm gonna start pushing out a lot of content. I've got some research projects I'm working on. I'm gonna be doing more lives on YouTube. I want to be able to interact with the community a lot more, and kind of gives like that face to face interaction. So
right,
it's something I want to do, and just work on the show, work on developing it. Every little bit I can, I'm trying to maybe come up with some new editing things to kind of spice up some stuff.
That never hurts. A little spiciness always helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty new actually to your show. John has been watching, I think, for a while, but huge fans. Keep it up. It's incredible. And I think you're doing a service to the people that are listening. So yeah, man, we love it.
Yeah, definitely. For me,
guys,
is
man.
like, shows like yours, shows like NDS and Ed's shows like have been a really like formative for me, as I've kind of taken a new journey in faith and just in trying to actually figure out, what the world actually is, kind of getting to see all of this from what I kind of view now to be the proper biblical perspective has been very helpful for me. And all you guys have been massive parts of that. So definitely keep up what you're doing.
We're all on this journey, man. We're all on it.
Yeah.
That's a wild ride.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to hit your plugs one last time?
No, yeah. Thank you guys so much, man. John, Carson, thank you guys for the invitation.
No, thank you for coming
to do
on.
it again in the future. Would definitely love to get you guys on the show as well, man. And but yeah, people could find the show on YouTube, audio platforms. Everything's The Biblical Hitmen. You could also check me out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. I hate TikTok. It sucks.
Feel that.
It's
But
terrible.
you know, I
I
used
don't
to
know
be
why it's so much
super
worse.
into it. Used to be super into TikTok, dude. Then I started
Were you?
creating content, and then I was like, I hate TikTok, dude. I hate it.
I've never
Copyright
interacted
me
with it
again.
enough to like understand. I just hearing about it makes me hate it. I get on there only to post things. I don't scroll through it. I'm scared. I'm scared to scroll through it. I'm too
hopefully
impressionable.
My wife's not sitting next to me because, geez, the things that pop up on there, man, are like, what in the world?
All this book talk stuff. It's weird. That's a thing, right?
I don't know.
No,
You know what I'm
it's
talking
not.
about?
No.
But it's essentially like softcore porn for soccer moms. It's all over TikTok from what I hear. Everybody at work, all the lady. I work in the insurance industry, and so it's all a bunch of aggressively frumpy middle-aged women. That's like 90% of the people I work with. Very dumpy, and they all they love their like I don't know their vampires and whatever other things are happening on the book talk. Yeah, it's a big thing apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Right on. Well,
It's
guys,
supposed-
listen, I loved this conversation. I thought it was a fun conversation, man. And
Yeah.
you know, thank you guys for for having me on. Hopefully, we all kind of like made some connections, man, with some of the stuff we were kind of making conclusions with. The whole Sophia thing with AI, I'm gonna have to really kind of dig and pick that apart now because I don't know, it just kind of felt right. So when it usually feels right and it comes together and there's a conclusion behind it, just dig into it. Maybe there's something there. Who knows? But
Yeah.
now I'm
Agreed.
down that rabbit hole. Thanks, buddy.
We try. Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. It's been a blast.
It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Right on,
It's
guys.
been
Right
glorious.
on, guys.
So, folks, thanks for listening. Be sure to check us out on all the socials, whatever those are. I'm losing track of what they are. So check us out on all of those, Instagram, YouTube, all the good places. We will be live Tuesday for Touch Me Tuesdays because we're live every Tuesday where we talk about the things that touch me that week, and hopefully we can touch you too. We like to touch people. So thanks. Yeah, thanks for listening. And anything else, John? We have anything coming up?
Yeah, just tune in tomorrow. We'll rerun that germ theory.
That's
terrain
right.
theory episode tomorrow around 7. I'll premiere that on YouTube. That was a pretty good episode. It was a good
I enjoyed it.
conversation. So be sure to check that out.
Nice.
And
I'm
then-
intrigued by it. I'll probably tune into that one too.
Yeah.
I'm honored. Yeah, the
Germ
germ
theory.
versus terrain theory is fascinating, especially in light of all the stuff that happened in 2020, in my opinion.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
And in like we kind of started from like the history of like Pasteur versus Becamp and then kind of built in the entire story and then built into kind of what we think the purpose of all of it is.
Yeah.
It was a good time. I learned a lot during that that
too.
discussion. So yeah. So be sure to check that out, and then more to come.
Yeah.
So
All right, folks. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll catch y'all on the next one.
appreciate it.
God bless, guys.